Okay, a new video with a new argument. The argument from miracles. This argument and others like the argument from religious experience and the argument from change are not designed to prove the absolute existence of God. No, they only claim a strong probability. Still, I included these kinds of arguments because they, together with all the other arguments, form a very strong cumulative case. Other arguments demonstrate the existence of a being that has a few of the properties only God can have. But none of these arguments, when taken individually, proves all the divine properties. However, when you take the arguments together, they form a very strong case. So, let's take a look at this argument. Premise number 1. A miracle is an event whose only adequate explanation is the extraordinary and direct intervention of God. Premise number 2. There are numerous well-attested miracles. Premise number 3. Therefore, there are numerous events whose only adequate explanation is the extraordinary and direct intervention of God. And then premise number 4. Therefore, God exists. Obviously, if you believe that some extraordinary event is a miracle, then you believe in divine agency. And you believe that such agency was at work in this event. But how do we know this event was a miracle? If miracles exist, then God must exist, right? But do miracles exist? And if the miracle was real, does that mean it came from God? Can it not just be a different supernatural being or more beings? Well, to start with that last question, many critics will, and I think rightly so, point out that we assume God. And yes, that's true. A Christian assumes God to be the only explanation. But why? Well, for this we will have to go back to the other theistic arguments. Especially the ontological argument is very helpful here. In that argument, we've concluded that there must be a maximally great being. A maximally great being cannot share his maximality with other beings because that would render him less maximal. So, if God exists, then he can only be the only one because besides him cannot be another maximally great being. But we also have the teleological arguments in which we have seen that God needs to be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful, willing, and maximally intelligent. So, as a Christian, you have nothing to be ashamed of. We can safely assume God as the divine agent. But if you, as critic, want to dismiss this idea, I suggest doing so by debunking the other theistic arguments. And if I were you, I would start with the cosmological, then the ontological, and finally the teleological arguments. And for all you other guys who are watching and girls who are watching this video, let's just move on. Okay, let's see what a miracle is. In the first place, the event must be extraordinary. But there are many extraordinary things happening all around the world. What to think about these news items where they tell you that it had been raining fish somewhere in the desert? Such an event is not a miracle because that could have had a natural course, right? But also we could not qualify it as religious. We would treat this kind of happenings more like a strange event. Not activated by prayer, but by nature. A miracle only counts as such when we can qualify it as religious as well. And I mean religious in the sense of you walking in that same desert and praying to God to send food and water. And all of a sudden it starts to rain big time. And what do you know? With that rain, fish starts to fall out of the sky. Yep, then you have a real miracle on your hand. It would be very hard to consider that what just happened to be a deception or even an extraordinary coincidence. So when someone talks about a miracle, it is important to know that it's important to know the setting in which it happened and all the things around it. Now many, and not in the least I myself, believe that God intervenes all the time. So let me tell you about the car accident I had just after I uploaded the last video. It was a very sad weekend in our village. 2 weeks before, a good friend of us brought his wife to a hospital in a bigger town. He couldn't get her diagnosed or treated because a lack of money. We actually didn't know about this, but we heard it afterwards. Last weekend she died at an age of 48. The well-respected man came home with his deceased wife and the rest of the huge family to bury her. Everybody felt horrible, everybody was sad. The day before the funeral, however, the daughter of this man went into labor. She already had 3 miscarriages before, so they were frantic to get her in a good hospital. So with a delegation of important men, that's the way they do it here, the father came to me. He said fuel or money to travel wasn't any problem, they said. They would figure something out. Please bring my daughter to a hospital, he pleaded. Well, I didn't need their money, and happy to be able to help, I drove her to the hospital that's about 100 kilometers away. And the car was loaded. You see, on Madagascar you will never travel alone. I had a total of 13 persons sitting in the car. After collecting some bags with food and other necessities, because you need to have somebody to provide you with food when you're lying in a hospital bed, right? Everybody arrived safely at the hospital. And afterwards I returned home to our village, only my daughter and 2 local ladies in the car. And actually I insisted that they had to wear their safety belts. They don't like that, but I said, we're not going to drive further, you have to wear them. Anyway, driving on the well-known road, I saw the junction where I had to get off. Just one last curve, and there it happened. Even though I drove very slowly, I think hardly 50 kilometers per hour, that's about 32 miles per hour, my car started to slip. Also, that's nothing new for me, and I corrected by gently steering in the direction I wanted to go. And the car responded nicely, but all of a sudden it bounced to the left. It happened so fast that I couldn't adjust in time, and the rear wheel slipped into the verge. It landed in a ditch, and before I knew, the whole car flipped over. We've made a 360-degree roll, after which the car landed on its wheels. None of us got hurt. So, and now look at the pictures. The whole rear end is like mingled. It's totally smashed. So what would have happened if somebody had been sitting there? Anyway, I called my wife, and I was rather emotional, and asked her to tell our friend the mayor to collect us. And after that I called my friend, who has an organization called Hoverate in the capital city. And he right away sent 2 mechanics to collect the car. They were able to drive the car for almost 600 kilometers to the capital. They only complained about that they got wet from the rain, because the body was totally smashed. You see, if you live and work in a country like this, you really need friends like these men. Okay, but how about me and my daughter? Still being alive and not even having a scratch? I, as a Christian, definitely say that God protected us for worse. I call this divine intervention. Yes, I will absolutely give all the glory for our health to God. For God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. But even though I recognize this as miraculous, I would not be able to make a hard case for the predicate miracle. Why not? Simply because I can easily say that nobody got hurt because we were in a sturdy car, buckled up in safety belts, and we weren't going fast. So this means that the setting or the surroundings of a supposed miracle is crucially important. Not only the physical setting, and not just the timing, but the personal setting is critical as well. It is also important to know about the character and the message of the person to whom this event is specially linked. If we look at some of the miracles from the New Testament, and we decide to remove them from their context and from the teachings and personality of Jesus, that would diminish these miracles from their religious significance big time. Why? Because when we call something a miracle, we interpret it religiously. But to see it as religiously, we definitely need a context or setting which justifies such explanation. Part of this setting usually needs a person whose moral authority is first affirmed and whose religious authority, which the miracle seems to affirm, is then acknowledged. So discussions whether something is a miracle or not quite often don't discuss this point, but the setting in which a miracle happened does play a critical part. Miracles are mostly recognized as genuine miracles when they evolve around a trustworthy and genuine person. Many only accepted the miracles in the New Testament, for example, as genuine acts of God after they started to explore the character and teachings of Jesus. So we can't really say that we have a proof from miracles, because recognizing a miracle as an act of God is depending strongly on the things happening around the situation. Years ago, my wife and I went to a big meeting, and the preacher all of a sudden said that there was a young lady in the room with a deformed spine. After some moments we saw a hand of a young lady, hardly 20 years old. The preacher told her to come to him. He said that Jesus told him that he was going to heal her. So after some hesitation, the girl stood up, and I was shocked. She was wearing a dress, but we could clearly see her crooked back. The poor girl must have been in such a pain. Again, the preacher said she had to come to the front, and she did. And while she was walking, we could see her vertebrae pop into place one by one, and I really thought I was going crazy. So I quickly looked at other people, but everybody was gasping for air. It was really happening there, right in front of our eyes. The religious setting was in place. The teachings were of a high moral standard, and the preacher just said what he believed would happen. He received his knowledge from Jesus, and it happened the way he said it would. And that is what I, and with me many others, would definitely recognize and acknowledge as a miracle, an intervention from God. If you see some happening as a miracle, then you see the activity of God in this event. So there is an action in our thinking that goes from this event to its proper interpretation as miraculous. And that what gives authority to that movement is not just the event by itself, but the many factors surrounding it. These factors combined seem to require, or maybe even demand, the interpretation of a miracle. Many people will acknowledge that miraculous events exist. It seems almost impossible to dismiss the huge amounts of reliable testimonies of miracles that happen and happened throughout the ages and in all sorts of places and cultures. So, therefore, because miracles happen, their cause must exist. Their only adequate cause is God. And yes, therefore God exists. So again, this argument is not a proof, but it does give us a very muscular hint or sign. Just as with the last argument, I guess this argument is really an open invitation to discussion, and I think I would try to debunk this argument, or at least question if I didn't believe in God myself. So let me know what you think down in the comments, but mind you, I'm not always able to respond quickly, but no worries. I'm sure other viewers love to respond as well. Do take a look in the description of this video. You will find ways to support me, or you could visit my website and read the transcript of this video in your own time. I always try to make the transcript available in the Dutch and English language. I would also like to invite you to my Odyssey channel. Odyssey is a platform which is based on a new protocol called Library. And videos that are uploaded through the library protocol are censorship free, unlike others. It would be very nice if you start following me there, and I'm mostly active on that channel. You can also comment on my videos on BitChute or YouTube, but because of our bad internet connection here, and because I'm not very active on those two channels, you most likely won't receive a reply from me there. If you want to start your own channel on Odyssey, that would be great. You can use my invitation in the description. And if you do, we both receive some free LBC. And you know I love free stuff, don't you? Anyway, as always, thank you for watching. God bless you, and we see each other in the next video. Thank you for watching this video. You can give me a thumbs up if you liked it. You can also subscribe to my channel, or even better, follow me on Odyssey. That way you will never miss a new video. You will find all the links in the description below.